Hey everybody, it's Lori with the Catch a Pocket Podcast, and tonight's Kristin Beal. Kristin is an artist here in Wichita. She's a teacher at Wichita State University, and she also works with a group at Harvester Arts and is the director of the Shift Space Gallery. You can find her in the community setting up neat and great things, and also promoting other artists in the community. Her latest project is a temporary memorial installation bringing awareness to the LGBTQ community and just other people in the community that you didn't know were here, but they were great, and it's a really good opportunity to find out things about Wichita by going and looking at these things. So I really appreciate Kristin for coming, and thank you guys for listening to the Catch a Pocket Podcast. Here is Kristin Beal. I'm here with Kristin Beal, and Kristin is an artist in the community. She works at several places in the community: Shift Space, Harvest Arts, WSU. You've probably seen her around, and she's just a great community activist for Wichita, and I'm proud to have her on the show. Thanks for coming on the Catch a Pocket Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right. It feels like deja vu. So let's start with, on this podcast, growing up. Were you born here in Wichita?
No, I was not. I was born in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and moved around a little bit, landed in Augusta, Kansas for 5th grade, and I graduated from Augusta High School.
Okay.
In 1990.
Do you still have friends from Augusta?
Some.
Yeah. I was just wondering because I have a few. I was raised in South Wichita, and I have a few people that I still call once in a while and see them, and I'm happy to see them and catch up like never before. So being raised in Augusta, and you went to high school there, did you play sports or do art or any of those things there?
Yes, I did both of those things. My parents had a rule that we had to play a sport each season.
Whoa.
I think because you made you eligible for some scholarship. Honestly, I don't remember why I had to play a sport. But I'm not an athlete, so that was a challenge.
What was your sport?
I played volleyball. I loved volleyball. I was decent.
I like volleyball. Yeah.
I played basketball for a while, but I was terrible at it. So I became like the wrestling manager, and I played golf. Also very bad at golf.
Really?
Very bad.
Yeah. Golf is if you hit one good one, you're having a good day, and the rest of the time you can suck. So, and it's outdoors, so that's good. So, wrestling manager, let's talk about that for a second. How did you stand the smell of them?
Oh, it was a big gymnasium. I don't know. I didn't.
Okay. It didn't bother you?
No.
It probably just worked its way. See, I played basketball at South, and the girls' gym was right by where the wrestling practice area. And we would have to cross through there to get to somewhere. I can't remember, but boy, that stench would hit me like a wall. Like, how do you deal with this? I've always been sensitive to smells, I think.
I don't even remember what I did. I mean, I sat at practices and watched these guys wrestle, which, I mean, I didn't hate that.
Yeah.
And probably carried water around. Like, I don't
Had
remember.
crushes on different guys.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember that
So after that, after high school and all of that, you went on to college?
Yes, I went to the Kansas City Art Institute straight
Mm.
out of high school, and that was magic. Um,
Yeah.
I remember pulling up. It was like a John Hughes. Is that his name? The director that did all the like Pretty in Pink and all
Yeah,
the other
that's John
things.
Hughes. Yeah.
Pulling up to the dorms and just seeing all these like mohawks and colored hair and piercings and all these uh, kids my age, but nothing like me.
Not Augusta. Not
No,
Augusta kids.
exactly. And I just felt I was so excited. I just felt like I found my tribe, right? I felt at home and
Right.
I loved it.
So while you were there, you were studying a certain type of art or just art in general and trying to find what is the thing that your talent is.
Yeah, I mean, in high school, it was all 2D. I did drawing and painting. And when I went to college, the first year was foundations, and it was just kind of intense, taking you through all the different foundations classes, 2D, 3D, printmaking, photography, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, first of all, like an assignment that I would have had 9 weeks to complete, I had like less than a week to complete in college. So that was a huge adjustment. Plus, I
Right.
was always, art was my thing in high school. I won gold key awards and all of that, and I was good. But getting there,
Mm-hmm.
like I wasn't good anymore, right? There were people that were so
Right.
better than me immediately, and so I mean, it was really hard, but it was great, and everybody, there were people that had only focused ever on ceramics that couldn't, draw a straight line. So, that
Sure.
we came from a variety of backgrounds. But my focus then was on painting again in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I ended up leaving the Art Institute. I did a semester at Pitt State, and
Mm-hmm.
I went back to the Art
Was
Institute.
it money that kept you like away, or did you just not like
Yeah, I mean,
competition was hot or
it wasn't that. It was more like I ended up living with my dad, and then my financial aid situation changed, and I just needed to sort that stuff out. So I stepped out for a semester, but then went back in.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then I left, and I ended up joining the Navy.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And so you were in the Navy for how long?
I was in the Navy for 2 years.
So one whatever it's called tour. Is that what it's called? What is
No,
it
I
called?
mean maybe, but
One
I didn't go on a
stint.
tour.
You didn't
I
go anywhere.
No, I joined in '92. I signed up for 4 years, but I developed asthma, and so I was medically discharged from the Navy, and
Yeah.
I was put out in '94. And went back to the Art Institute.
In Kansas City?
Yep.
Okay.
And it just seemed so ridiculous after having just been in the Navy. I didn't need. I was pretty motivated and self-driven. I
Mm.
didn't. I could finish this degree anywhere, and I started figuring that out.
Okay. And you
Uh,
kind of saw the bigger picture after being in such a different. I'm sure you went to the Navy to earn the money to go back to the Art Institute, and that was the goal and the driving force behind the Navy. And
right.
then you're like, I'm gonna financially, I can't do this unless I do something, and this will do it. So then you go through that experience of the Navy, which is quite, I would say, intense. I've never been to the Navy, but um, I'm sure anything with boot camp at the beginning of it is probably
Yeah.
intense, and they yell at you and
Yeah.
monitor your sleep, and your
Yeah.
food and like all the things that are rigorous,
Hmm.
mentally.
Yeah.
So, and then so going back to the Art Institute, maybe you had evolved or
Yeah.
been broken down in some ways mentally by these jarheads
Yeah.
or whatever they're called. And then you're back there and you're like, wait a minute, what I'm doing now, I can do anywhere and get, as long as I'm doing what I do at the top of my skill level, then I'm going to get this result.
Yeah. No, exactly. And, I had that rigor in me all along. I didn't realize that necessarily.
Right.
I've always been pretty, well, definitely as a kid, I was pretty fearless. I think the fear is, it gets in the way of my life more now than it ever did in my past. But I also became pregnant with my first child, with Noah. And so it just didn't, I was like, okay, let me
Right.
just,
While you were at the Art Institute, you became pregnant and then you
yeah,
decided, okay, let's change course. Everything's different now. And it
yeah,
not necessarily did you give up that because you were pregnant, but just in your mind, it didn't make common sense for
yeah,
you to go on,
exactly.
proceed on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then you ended up where from there?
Well, my folks live in Potwin, Kansas, and so
Whoa.
it's
I know right where that is.
yeah,
Hot one.
northeast of Wichita, and
Teeny.
yeah, tiny, tiny. So moved back there and had Noah, and I think I went to Butler because leaving the Art Institute, I then suddenly had to take like algebra and
Oh,
English
yeah.
in these like gen ed classes that I hadn't had to take. So I took some of those at Butler, and then became pregnant with Myra,
Okay. So,
and then had Myra, and then enrolled in at WSU to finish my undergrad degree.
okay. So you finished so you kind of went into a community college, got all your general courses hammered
Yeah,
out, and then whatever transferred over, then you finished at WSU getting your bachelor's in
yeah,
fine arts.
yeah. BFA in painting and printmaking, um, in '99, December of '99.
All right. And with two babies and
Yep.
they were, younger-ish when
Hmm.
that was happening.
Yeah.
So then what was your favorite experience while you were at WSU? Do you have like a memory that was like um
Mm,
something?
pivotal.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I was a very serious student, very driven, and like determined to not um, give up my career goals
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
aspirations because I had two young children. And I remember this visiting artist came, and I wish I remembered his name, but I don't. He was at the Ulrich, and he made these giant wax paintings of like Napoleon, and I think there was one of Elvis, and they were just these giant paintings. And he did a demo in the atrium where he showed how he layered this wax and mixed oil paint into it.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, bet.
That's cool.
So I made this whole body of work based on that technique. And that's the work that I was able to apply to graduate school with.
Mm-hmm.
And
Be
um,
accepted and
yeah,
everything. They
yeah.
liked it. So you graduate at WSU and you apply for your master's, and then where do you apply to?
I applied several places. Um, I think I was accepted to KU, San Diego State University, and VCU,
Mm.
Virginia Commonwealth University. And actually, your sister Lisa and I, that's where I met. Lisa was at Wichita State, and we both had two young children and were artists there. And so we applied to several schools together, and VCU was the one that we got into together.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And so you both went out there
yeah.
and So before you went out there, though, you guys like took a trip and visited campus? And what
Yeah.
was that like?
It was great. I think we were both prepared to just go sight unseen. But
Right?
especially my parents that were like, "Don't you want to go look at this place first?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." It didn't even occur to me as an option. Seemed like a long ways away, and kids, and all of that. So
Right.
I remember Lisa packed this big cooler, and we took off. I had just bought a car, so we had reliable transportation, and we hit the road. It was great. We had a great,
Great road trip.
yeah.
And so did you guys like stay at hotels? Because it would take like 3 days to get there
I think
if you're moderate, like if you're
remember what we did on the way there.
that cooler was full of beer.
It was not. It was like bologna sandwiches and shit. Um, no, we stayed at a current grad student's house when we got there.
Oh, okay. So you
Um,
had arranged it and they had a
right.
kind of a little
They
thing.
kind of knew we were coming. We must have stayed at hotels, but honestly, I don't recall. I don't remember at all.
Right.
Um, and then I don't know. We were there for a couple days and drove back. VCU, the art building was brand new then, and so it was very it was really exciting to see.
It was a really neat campus and beautiful, manicured glass, modern buildings and
Yeah.
really cool. Nice.
Yep.
And where Lisa lived, I don't know where you lived because we didn't go by your house. I think maybe on the way to school, she lived way the hell out though.
Yeah.
She lived, I don't know what in the hell, but she got about 20
Yeah.
speeding tickets. I
Yeah.
know that.
She lived in a suburb, and I wish I could remember what it was called now too.
It was called Chesterfield, like the
Yeah.
cigarettes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I lived in town. So yeah, no.
Yeah. So you were like, did you have a house or did you have an apartment?
I had both. First, I had an apartment. Chris, my ex-husband, he got a job as a maintenance guy at an apartment complex, so that we would have a cool place to stay.
Uh-huh.
And then, when I first went out, my parents kept the kids at first, so we went out and got settled, and then they brought the kids out, and then we outgrew that apart. It just felt we're not really apartment dwellers. That's
Right. Right.
So once we had a better kind of lay of the land, we got a house and moved into that. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And so you guys did really well there and you did I think I remember you doing watercolor painting?
No, I did painting, but more. I was in the painting department, but I did more kind of installation.
Oh, okay.
And, I never made paintings there. I made what I called them I thought of them as turning landscape paintings inside out. So they became these kind of 3D kind of shadow sculpture that.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you got away from the wax deal and went
Yeah.
into the 3D kind of
I
shadow
made
sculpture.
the worst paintings of my life out of wax when I first got there. It was awful, so I had to change fast.
Is that because of the instructor telling you that, or like
No, I mean, you don't have a lot of instruction in grad school. It's more you're just holed up in your studio making and making, and I just
you just hated it or something. You just didn't like it.
I couldn't. The wax wasn't doing it for me anymore.
The wax was over. You were moving on.
Yeah.
And I think Lisa was making large sculptures and things like that, and I think she continued to do that, but it was the media that changed or something for her during that time. But so you graduated and then did you stay out there? Did you go elsewhere? Where did you go from VCU?
I stayed in Richmond for a couple years. I taught at what's the name? Longview? Is that the name? It's in Farmville, Virginia. I can't think of the name of it. Maybe Longview University was my first job. I taught at some community college in Richmond. I also can't think of the name of that. And then
That's
I
great.
Lynchburg College. I moved to Lynchburg, Virginia, and taught at Lynchburg College for a couple years before I accepted a 1-year position at Wichita State and moved back to Wichita.
Okay. And I think my sister was working by that point at Wichita State or at some kind of thing. I really don't know. But so you guys reunited and
Yeah.
made the synergy happen again, because I remember just some of the great things that came out of you guys both, and you especially, the parades and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Just
I love parades. It's fun.
yep. And so that was that through Harvester that you did the parades, or was that
No,
a whole nother thing?
that was pre-harvester. I I had the 1-year position at Wichita State. I was a painting professor, like visiting painting professor. And then the following year, I took on shift space and I started Project Runaway there and some
Yeah,
other.
that's so cool. That Project Runaway. You guys planning to do that again, right? I hope.
Probably not just like that, but actually, I have a parade. I'm trying to start a parade at Wichita State. That's my big next thing that I want to do there.
On campus or in the
Yeah,
city?
on
On the
campus.
campus. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
And they have all that new building
yeah,
stuff and all these little roundabouts and stuff, so that
yeah,
would be so paradable.
yeah. No, totally. I 100% agree. Hopefully, the campus community will get on board with this.
It's
Uh,
hard, that it's hard to get people enthused about your great ideas. I feel. But it's in our nature to try to make our community better. And I think that's what you do the best of anything, is like get engaged with your community and your fellow citizens, and with a pleasant, not a lot of artists might talk down to you when they talk to you or be pretentious, I feel like,
mhm.
but I don't feel that way when we talk. So I think you have that very good personability that,
Well, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I'll say, that when I first moved back to Wichita, I was at Wichita State for 2 years. I did teaching for a year and then shift space for a year. I left because I was like, wait, I didn't go into this to run a gallery. I'm an artist. This isn't what I do. And I went and I taught art appreciation at Butler for 10 years. I
Hmm.
taught 3 sections back to back, about 90 students a semester. And it was really humbling because I had always been a part of these very serious art groups or communities where we all knew how serious it was and how great we were and how
Yeah,
like this self-fulfilling prophecy to go before classes of students that do not care,
right.
and being responsible for like making them care somehow. And then a lot of them were there on various athletic scholarships or whatnot, and I just remember realizing, like, oh my God, I can't let art appreciation be the thing that stands in their way.
Right.
Um, Also, they don't care at all. So,
It's
how are we
hard,
gonna do
that's a conflict of interest almost.
yeah, how are we going to do this? But also realizing that, like, these students were really a cross section of all the communities out there. I had just always been in this vacuum.
Right.
And so I started doing kind of participatory projects with them, kind of conducting little experiments with them. They were kind
Yeah.
of like in my pre-gallery days, pre-harvester days.
Right.
And then
So
in the
it was like a smaller version of.
it was a kind of test kitchen, if you will. Like I
Sure.
knew
Yeah,
If I can get this, if I can get them all on board to do some project, like that was major. Right?
for sure.
And I just didn't, their failure was not an option, right? Like if they were failing and not engaged, then that was something I was doing. And I wasn't going to get them there through a textbook, right? We were
Right.
going to have to dig in and do some stuff. And we did. And I learned so much and really loved working with community by the end of that. I really felt um, it like I was making some impact. And then
Right.
I, at some point, realized too that the only artists that I knew, the only quote unquote creatives I knew were in academia, or these artists that, practice within that vacuum. I didn't know any community artists. And
Right.
so the first parade I threw was called an Art Pride Parade. It was in the spirit of gay pride, but for art. And I used social media, I used Facebook, and I did it to meet the community. I did it to meet other creatives, and it was a blast. It was fun. It was also like I remember learning that I could take out a permit to throw a parade. Like they just let anybody do.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
was like, wow, okay. And I think at the time it cost like $10 or $20.
That's great.
They've changed that law now, and
How much is it now? Do you know?
regret to say that I think I might be part of the reason they changed that. I have no idea, but it's more expensive now because then you have to pay for police and you have to pay for road
Oh,
patrol.
wow.
You didn't have to do any of that when I did it.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, but I met so many people doing that parade, and I met Ann Kiefer through that, and Ann later went on to Riverfest.
Yeah, she's a strong
Yeah,
community advocate.
yes,
Yes. I
yes,
need to get her on this
yes,
show.
you do. Ann is
And come on.
a goddess. I love her. She's a great mentor of
Yeah.
mine. She brought me to Riverfest to be the creative consultant for the Sundown Parade.
Oh, cool.
I remember her saying, like, what if all you had to do was kind of apply this sort of creative vision to the parade and try to bring artists into the parade, but you didn't have to mess with any of the permits or road closures or any of that. And I was
Right.
like, yes, please. Um,
That's a dream, right?
yeah, so I started doing that in 2012 when Anne started at festivals, and
Cool.
I've done that ever since.
And is that the one that they had the guy who had the big, oh gosh, Carrie Nation or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Was that the
So
first one right then?
no, that was 2015. So in 2014, I started creative consultant for the parade in 2012.
Uh-huh.
2014, I started Harvester Arts with Kate Van Steenhouse and Ryan Gates.
Okay.
And then because I already had this relationship with Riverfest, we developed this artist in residency program for Riverfest. So Harvester facilitates the artist in residence program for Riverfest. And Wayne
Oh,
White
cool.
was our first artist.
What's his name again?
Wayne White.
Okay. Yeah, Wayne
He,
White.
he's kind of widely known as the main kind of puppet maker and creative mind behind Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Oh, okay. That's where it
Yeah,
comes from
yeah,
because those were so cool.
it's
I just totally we didn't participate. We watched. We literally, me and my family sat on a curb and watched you
yeah,
guys walk by and thought, man, this is totally awesome. It's like another level for Wichita.
yeah. It
Great.
was super great. He and his wife came, Mimi Pond. She's actually also kind of famous in her own right. She's a cartoonist, and he was here for 10 days and worked with about 50 different local artists, and we made the herd of cattle and all the different.
Right.
We had the whiskey bottle and Carrie Nation and the giant cowboy
Yeah, the giant cowboy.
and the world's largest Conestoga wagon. That was there. He's great. He's a really incredible guy that has maintained relationships with a lot of the artists that worked with him on that. So
Awesome.
a
So
high
then, yeah, so that was what year? 2015, is that?
2015. Yep.
And so from there, there was the next year was another kind of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, Chinese dragons. Is that what it was?
No, the next year, although it maybe looked that way from the parade, the next year we brought Rachel Hayes, and she did the big sun sails in the kids' corner.
Okay.
Um, and we carried big colorful pieces of fabric in the parade that were part of the she does these large fabric
Oh,
installations.
right.
And then so that would have been 2015, 2016. The next year was James Marshall, known as Dalek.
Mm-hmm.
It's a street artist, and he painted Harvester. He painted the front of our building, and then he made a really cool DJ booth, where he painted it,
Yeah.
that DJ Carbon uses and stuff like that.
Ah, so yeah, is the front of your building, are you guys right there on Washington Street?
We're right on Washington, next to B. Young Salon.
And it's kind of a Art Deco looking building?
Well, it's different colors of turquoise and
Yeah, I like that.
blue, and it's geometric.
Yeah, geometric and
Yeah.
kind of really modern
Mhm.
looking because of the painting, because of the geometry of the whole thing. So cool. Anyways, I need to go check it out. You
Yeah.
guys have exhibits there, and is that just contemporary art, or is that other kinds of art as well?
Well, it's probably mostly contemporary in that they're all living artists that we work with,
Mm,
but we're actually in the process now of kind of restructuring and starting to look at how Harvester could be more of a co-op or a membership organization. And we have hired a consultant, Armando Mineres, and
mm.
he's put together a team of delegates. That's what we call them, because they're artists that would kind of represent different types of creatives in the community, to kind of see like what does the creative community here want and need.
Yeah, what would drive them to
Right.
um, create in a way that would attract more people, probably is what you're trying to do.
Well, and also, I mean, Kate and I have done this largely as a sometimes full-time volunteer gig.
Right.
We're able to pay ourselves here and there through different grants for administrative work, but we aren't paid for this work. It's something we started, and we've learned so much from doing it, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely the experience that we've gained through Harvester has given us the other opportunities that we now have, the jobs that we have. But it just became clear, like, if Harvester could do that for us, um, it could do that for other artists. And a large piece of our mission is about raising capacity for the creative community in Wichita. So how do we turn this over to the creative community and kind of shadow and help them?
Yeah, that's awesome. That is really so divine. I think that's what a lot of artists out there, they don't know they're looking for that, but that's what they're looking for, in my opinion.
I hope so.
That is the thing, that it's hard to become a part of a community if you don't know where to
Right.
look, you know. So, and artists are known to be very introverted in a way, in their own head or whatever. But so they have trouble, I think, seeking out a community and getting along with them, that kind of thing.
Some do, for sure. Some too. I mean, it's just there's such scarcity, right? There's so few opportunities, or it feels that way, and
Mm-hmm.
so few spaces. And artists, like, yeah, there's spaces available, but you have to pay to have a show there, and you have to, like, it just can feel really daunting and hard to make a living, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all just trying to make it, right? And
Right. You want to pay your bills,
yeah,
and
we're all
that's really what we're.
cobbling this life together. There is that vacuum I talk about, which is kind of academia and those artists that are lucky enough to go through school and step right into that and have a job with insurance and all of that.
Right.
That's great, but that's a very small percentage of
Right.
working artists out there. Most working artists are, you know, working in restaurants and bartending and babysitting and teaching adjunct and they're doing so
Right.
many
Just
things to try to build a life where they can
right.
be an artist. And I think there's no shame in that game. I think artists should
Me either.
stack up their lives however they need to be able to work on their art. And so, Harvesters is trying to find the ways that we can best support that.
Yeah, that's really excellent for you guys. And, a very kind of age old question, complicated task to fulfill. It's really hard to have a job where you love doing it every day. But that is the goal of every person that I know. Like every single person, no matter what your talent is, your drive is, I would love to work at a job where it's not like working, like doing what I'm passionate about. And that's art to me. Watching artists live their life is like such, I'm a little jealous about it because it's just like, what would that be like not to be told to do this and have to say, okay, because that's what I do every day. Like, you want that done? Oh, let me figure out how to do that and I'll do that. That's my whole day, all day. So
Yeah.
wouldn't it be nice to go,
I mean,
fuck you, I want to splash paint today.
yeah. I mean, it's fun today too. I think once I came into this community kind of work, and became known as this sort of cat herder, right? Like people know me as somebody that can get something done, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. With a lot of different diverse people.
Yeah. My so I have the shift space job at Wichita State, but I'm also what's called the placemaking coordinator and special projects coordinator at Wichita State for strategic communications.
Whoa.
And
that's pretty major.
It's great. I love my job. I love it a lot. And placemaking is really about cultivating pride and attachment to the university and creating new traditions and making the campus a cool place to be.
Yeah, that's really fun.
It's super fun. I really love it. But sometimes there are, for instance, I'm in charge of deciding where the flags that go on the light poles on campus.
Sure.
Or signage, all the COVID signage.
Oh, you have to do that?
Yeah, I have to. I don't have to. I just have to communicate where they go. Right. Somebody else
actually put them up. You're delegating.
I'm in between making sure it goes from design to install. Right?
Okay. So like logistics. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of that, like some days it's like, what in the world? What am I doing? I'm like trying to build a map to give to them to tell them. But it's fun. I mean, it's
different than doing a parade, right? So
yeah,
at least every day's a new day.
Yeah, it's cat herding, it's problem solving. It's in the same, like there's for my work to be successful in my work, I need people to not run the other way when they see me coming.
Right. So you have to be genuine and
yes.
And you have to follow through on your word if you give it to someone and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And you do that so exceptionally. So, I'm just really proud to know you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I can't wait to see what you do next. Next time, call me because I'd like to carry something at a
Oh, right.
festival.
Bet.
I always sit on the sidelines and watch all the coolness.
October 1st is this year's Riverfest parade.
I bought a virtual shirt last year. That's how much I love River Festival.
Oh, yay. Me too.
I don't usually go except for the parade, but still, I love it. So, okay, this is a part of the episode where I ask you a story of inspiration. So, what inspires you or inspired you, or you heard a story and it was inspiring? Any of that?
Oh my goodness. There's so many things, Lori. Well, I'll talk about, right now I'm working on a project called Belonging Plaza with Armando Mineras. He has recently been hired at Wichita State in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. And we are developing a pop-up plaza that will be a commemorative tool to recognize overlooked and marginalized trailblazers. Right.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
In its first iteration, Belonging Plaza is going to commemorate Christy Parker. I don't know if you knew Christy Parker, but she started Liberty Press. She was a WSU alum, and she died suddenly in 2018 of a stroke. And just at like 48 years old, super young.
Oh, wow.
Just incredible lady. I only knew her for a short time. I met her through our dear friend Terry Mott.
Yeah, lovely. She's been on the show. Check her episode out.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I'm inspired by Christy's life, and it's been such a great kind of starting point for this project to make sure we build this project in a meaningful way that students could then pick up and use for later commemorations. Because the whole idea is that we'll commemorate Christy and it'll be out for a month or so for her, but then in the fall another student group could come in and decide they want to commemorate somebody else, and the plaques on top of the columns are changeable. There'll be a whole toolkit and everything that goes with it. So students
cool.
can do this.
Yeah, where's that going to be located?
It'll be on campus. We drove around the golf cart today to scope locations. There's lots of pavement on campus. There's lots of good spots for it. But as part of the kind of kit that we're going to put together, we'll include potential spots where students could set up their plaza.
Oh, cool. So like pop-up tents and display their wares and stuff like that?
They're just columns. They're 10 round columns with what we call it a lipstick top. It's like a round column with them. And so and the column is about 4 feet tall, and it'll have a plaque on it,
Oh, so, okay. Something to read?
Circle, yeah.
Okay.
And so each group that does it we're developing a template for, the different themes that you would develop text for the
monument. So cool. Yeah. So that's your newest project, and that's inspiring for everyone because you're using the most inspirational sources as the thing that you're kind of showing everyone about WSU that makes it open and accepting to all cultures and different people, women, men, doesn't matter. You're accepted here. Look at what we've done, and you can do it too, kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, I think it's also, mainly for monuments I'll start and say, I think Wichita State does a good job. But I think all institutions, I think all businesses, people, all of culture can do a better job to undo systemic racism and, all the isms, the patriarchy, all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And more and more, younger kids, this Gen Z generation, like they're not going to tolerate it. And number one, I love that. I love learning from them every day.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear all of the backlash about cancel culture and all of that, I think that's BS. I think it's, for the most part, accountability. And I also,
correct.
I feel that these are the first kids that grew up in this zero tolerance culture, right? Like they have been kicked out of school for nothing.
Just getting mad and hitting someone on accident, get away from me.
No, room for them growing up. So we can't be surprised
that they have the same attitude.
Yeah. And good. I mean, I think they're really moving the needle. So, as I said, I think WSU is doing a good job, but we all have a long ways to go. And I think monuments historically don't represent actual history.
Right.
they represent the victors, right? And so
who they wish were the victors sometimes. Right.
This is a tool that students can really research through to find marginalized voices and overlooked people that they want to commemorate. And I think it could be a really powerful tool. And the fact that it's not permanent, quote unquote, not permanent. It's made out of stainless, but they'll be filled with water. So each of the columns weigh over 200 pounds. So nobody's going to run off with them.
Right, right.
That's the kind of beauty of placemaking, is that you can do things that are temporary, quote unquote temporary, and kind of give people a taste, right? So
right.
We could have this, and then...
Wouldn't that be grand? And, that's a point of pride for the community, and especially for the people that are choosing what's going on there for that year or 2 years or however long you keep it there. And not only that, but everything has to come to an end at some point. So even art, even though we try to preserve it and we try to keep it, everything wants to go away. That's its nature, to go away. So it's nice to get that pride and also the realization of our total fragility, it's just the way it is. So at this point, do you have any other events or anything like that you'd like to plug? Or
well, I mentioned briefly at the beginning of this that I'm trying to develop a Shocktoberfest or Fall Festival themed parade on Wichita State campus for the fall. There's a lot of things up in the air about that right now, but I applied for a grant, a visiting artist grant for that through ShipSpace, to bring George Ferrandy back. George Ferrandy's the artist that we worked with at Harvester for Jumpstar, to kind of develop the structure of this parade and what it would be, and the different characters that would be in it, but all Wichita State themed, and develop ways for multiple colleges, departments to be involved. So make a really interdisciplinary event, create a tradition. Wichita State lacks in traditions, so part of my job is to try to develop new traditions.
Wow. So do you ever sing that tradition?
No.
Oh. Because I would. Every time I try to think of something. Anyway, that's why I'm not the one doing it, by the way. It would be stupid. Off the bat.
I never had the song.
It's... What is that? What is that show? With the Fiddler on the Roof. That's it. Fiddler on the Roof. Tradition. So, well, Kristin, it's been a real pleasure, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm sorry that I took it twice, because this is our second recording, because I failed to hit record or something at some point on our first one, so I really appreciate you for taking the time to come on again to the Catch a Pocket podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, it has, and I owe you big time, so we'll see you down the road. Meet you at Kirby's.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The Catch a Pocket podcast can be found on the Podbean app, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Podcast, Spotify, Apple Play Podcast, and YouTube, and many others. Please subscribe and follow the show. I'm always interested in hearing what you think of the show. You can email questions and concerns to catchapocket@gmail.com. Special thanks goes out to my guest for coming on the show. Thanks, Kristin, and Kirk Runstrom for the music. And anyone else who supports this podcast or Wichita activities and takes the time to give this podcast a listen, I hope you guys catch a pocket you can be proud of, and see you next time.